Writing an essay in the B2 First exam is not difficult. Really, it's not, if you know what and what not to do. My name is Toby, this is Smash English, and here are the 5 biggest, most common mistakes that students make when writing their essay for the B2 First exam. One of the criteria that the examiners are marking your essays on is called content. This is about 2 things. 1, if the content of your essay is relevant to the topic and question, and 2, if the target reader is informed. Being informed here means that the examiner can understand the topic, the question, and the 3 prompts of the essay by reading your essay. If your essay is too short, then you cannot include all the details necessary to write the essay. And also, you're not including enough material for the examiner to assess. Remember, the examiner is trying to assess your language. If you don't produce enough, then how can the examiner mark it? On the other hand, if your answer is too long, then you will start including irrelevant information, and this will reduce your marks for content. Furthermore, if you write in very long sentences and add lots of unnecessary words, this can make your essay harder to follow, and this can hurt your marks for communicative achievement. But we will talk about that later. So please try to aim for between 140 to 190 words. An easy way to do this is to write 2 sentences in your introduction, 3 sentences about your first prompt, 3 sentences about your second prompt, 3 sentences about your third prompt, and 3 sentences in your conclusion. If you do that, your word count will be about right. Do not count your words in the exam. You do not have time to spend counting words. No, what are you doing? Don't do that. When you're writing your essay, ask yourself this question. Can the examiner understand the topic, the question, and the prompts by reading the essay? If the answer is no, then I'm sorry, but you need to start again. An easy way to ensure the examiner can understand the topic and the question is to include that information in your introduction. I always tell my students to introduce their essay with a general statement about the topic. Not about the question, but about the topic. For example, if the essay is about whether sports in school should be obligatory, they could write a statement about how important sport is. Then I ask my students to rephrase the question. This means you take the question and you write it again, but this time in your own words. This way the examiner can understand the topic and the question your essay is answering after only the first 2 sentences. This is great for your marks in content and also for organisation and communicative achievement because you have a clear introduction to your essay. Yeah, don't forget the introduction. Making sure you talk about each prompt is easy. Your essay should be 5 paragraphs long. The first paragraph, of course, is your introduction. The last paragraph is your conclusion, so this leaves 3 paragraphs, 1 for each prompt. That way you can never forget to include one. I know planning is boring. When I was at school, I did not plan anything. When I was at university, I didn't really plan either. Yeah, I shouldn't be telling you that, should I? But you must if you want to get top marks for communicative achievement. Here the examiner is assessing you to see if you can hold the reader's attention. That means that your ideas are logical and easy to follow. Not only within paragraphs, but also between paragraphs. This means that the body of your paragraphs must be logical. So open each of your paragraphs with a statement, follow this by an explanation, and then conclude with an example, or perhaps an example of a solution to a problem, depending on what the question is. Why don't we look at an example?
Obesity is becoming an increasing problem in society. Do you think this problem can be solved? Write about 1. Junk food, 2. Education, 3. Your own idea. This question is asking whether we believe there is a solution to a problem. We should try to mention possible examples of solutions for each prompt. Let's look at a possible paragraph about junk food. Firstly, one of the reasons people are putting on weight is diet. Today's modern lifestyle often means people do not have the time to prepare meals at home, and so they need to eat pre-cooked meals which are often unhealthy. If food companies decided to reduce the salt and fat content of their foods, perhaps this problem could be avoided. Here we have a statement, followed by an explanation, which links the prompt to the question, and finally, an example of a possible solution. There is a logical progression to the paragraph. The reader can easily understand the thought process of the writer.
But it gets more complicated. Not only do we need to be logical within paragraphs, but also logical between paragraphs. For example, the last paragraph we saw was about junk food and its relation to obesity. Can this problem be solved? Well, I want my next paragraph to be about education. But to do that, I must somehow link junk food consumption and education. So there is a logical development in my argument. So all the prompts are somehow linked together. So in this example, maybe we could talk about how in school they should educate children about having a healthy diet. Then after that, I want my next paragraph to be sport. So I could talk about how sport should be compulsory in school. This is why you must plan. You must think of your own prompt, and then you need to order the prompts before you start writing, so you can connect them all logically in the essay. If you do this, you will score fantastically in communicative achievement. So please do it. One way to avoid oversimplification is not being too personal. Don't talk about yourself, and don't talk about how the issues relate to you. Instead, talk about them generally. Talk about society. For example, if you have a question about pollution, don't talk about how you recycle or about how the area where you live is dirty and polluted, but instead talk about how everyone could or should be recycling to reduce waste globally. Only make things personal and about you in the conclusion, where you can finally give your opinion. Oh yeah, and don't give your opinion before the conclusion. Oh, the amount of times I have seen essays begin with the word I. Oh my gosh, don't do that. Another way to talk about complex ideas is to use hypothetical language, speculative language, use unreal tenses. This means use modal verbs and use unreal conditionals like the second conditional or the third conditional. It's not that difficult to do. Let's have a look at an example.
Here, a possible solution is given to the problem. But instead of saying, if food companies reduce salt and fat content, the problem will be solved, it is presented hypothetically with a second conditional. This is what examiners mean by complex ideas, and they are necessary to score high marks. Be hypothetical. Be speculative. Instead of talking about what is, talk about what could be or what should be.
Of course, one of the criteria that the examiners are looking at is called language. Wow, how surprising. In order to pass with high marks, you must use some less common lexis. This basically means specialized language about specific topics, topics that are less familiar to you. This is why when planning, because you're going to plan, I tell my students to write a list of vocabulary that they can think of about the topic in general and also about the prompts. Then they can choose some of this vocabulary when they are writing their essay to score higher marks.
For example, this essay question is about obesity, so some general vocabulary could be putting on weight, overweight, lose weight, get in shape, sedentary lifestyle. The first prompt is junk food, so vocabulary could be saturated fat, high salt content, high sugar content, fattening. The second prompt is education, so we could have educational institutions, curriculum, assignments. For the third prompt, I have chosen the topic sports, so potential vocabulary could be active lifestyle, team sports, working towards a goal, to be highly motivated.
Now, of course, you don't have to use lots and lots of less common lexis. This is a B2 exam. Just 3 or 4 words would be enough. However, plan so you don't leave the exam room and think, "Oh, put on weight. Great, that's a great expression. Why didn't I use that?" Oh yes, because I didn't plan. So what you need to remember is number 1, try not to write too many or too few words. Try to stick between 140 to 190 and don't count your words to check. That's ridiculous. You don't have time. Make sure you include every single prompt and make sure you answer the question. Remember, the examiner should be able to understand the topic, the question, and the prompts by reading your answer. And number 3, plan your essay. This is vital to ensure that your essay is logical, both within the paragraphs and between them. Number 4, don't simplify things. Don't make things too personal. Try to keep things general. Don't talk about what is, but talk about what could be or what should be. Use unreal tenses, second conditionals, and third conditionals. This is good for your language because you will get higher marks for grammar, and it's also good for communicative achievement because you are talking about complex issues. And number 5, use less common lexis related to the topic. Do you notice how in your English books everything is organized by a topic? One module might be on the environment, the next on diet and food, the next one on sport, the next on jobs. Well, this is why it's organized that way. So you have these word groups in your head that you can reproduce at a time like this. So please put it to good use. And with that, we are finished. Now you know the 5 biggest mistakes to avoid when writing your essay for the B2 First Cambridge exam. If you liked the video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment down below. My name is Toby and this was Smash English.